Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. As we gather this week to give thanks, I thought it might be of interest to reflect on gratitude and some of the issues that this day does indeed bring up for all of us. But first, this is Latina Literati. In past Thanksgivings, we would wake up at 4 a.m, take a ferry out to Alcatraz. Alcatraz is the Spanish word for pelican. So when the colonial conquerors arrived and they saw these pelicans on this island, they called it Pelican Island. But the indigenous people called Alcatraz Turtle Island. And so it is to Turtle Island that everyone is invited for a sunrise ceremony on the last Thursday of November. And it is incredibly impactful because you get there and the first thing you hear are the drums. And so you walk up to the main area and there are representatives from all over the world, from Pacific Islands and from South America and Central America and Canada and of course Palestine, and they're indigenous people with their flags. They don't really allow videos or pictures, but there is celebratory dancing, and there are dances dedicated to gratitude and to peace. And as the sun starts to rise, everyone turns to the sun, greets the sun, gives thanks for a new day, gives thanks for the new possibility to do good and to do what is right, especially for indigenous brothers and sisters. So whether it is protecting the Amazon or ensuring treaty rights are kept, there is a chapter of history where basically every treaty ever entered into has been broken in North America. And so we must do better. We must ensure our representatives do better, and we must ensure that indigenous people are protected. And so as we give thanks today, it is the most celebrated holiday in North America, much more than any other religious holiday, and people are gathering all over. It's also a time of remembrance and a time to remember the incredible cruelty with which this government and past governments treats indigenous people. Because as the indigenous people themselves say, no one can be undocumented in stolen land. And so we say that this is all indigenous land, and the borders were imposed on us, and they have nothing to do with where the traditional Aslan may be or where traditional peoples may move, because by the very definition of their nation and their sovereignty, indigenous people should be able to move everywhere. About half of those who pick the food we eat are indigenous people. Many do not even speak Spanish, and so it's important to understand that when borders are crossed to find work, indigenous people now are at the forefront of that struggle, and so we need to ensure that they're protected and that their rights are recognized. We've heard stories of Native Americans, of indigenous people being picked up and without intervention would be sent to other countries, which is of course heinous in terms of what has already been done and what is currently being done. So as we give thanks this week, it's important to recognize what has passed, what has gone on in the past, what we need to think about and we need to rectify in the present, and also gratitude. One of the iconic leaders of the Native American indigenous movement is, of course, Leonard Peltier. He was finally given his freedom after almost 50 years in jail, some of them in Supermax, for a crime he says he did not commit, and even the prosecutor and the judge and everyone involved in the case in retrospect say that there was misconduct on the part of the prosecution. So we know that he was unfairly judged, and he has finally been given his freedom, and so we celebrate that. But there are so many others in prisons who shouldn't be there, and so we need to work to help them also get their freedom. for whatever their acts are, whether it's political or whether they're being detained because they don't happen to have a certain piece of paper. We need to help them in any way we can in supporting the groups and organizations that help those in need. And so when we talk about gratitude, what does that mean? What does it mean to be thankful? What does it mean? And so it's really a recognition of contentment with who we are, where we are, and what we have. So being grateful, as Marcus Aurelius, I've said it before, Marcus Aurelius 2,000 years ago said, arise in gratitude and think that you have another day to live, to be alive, to love. And that's the mantra that I try and keep at the forefront of every morning. What an amazing miracle it is that we're given another day to be able to work towards justice, to help each other, to love each other, to support each other, to lift up those around us who need it. And so on to my favorite part of the video, the book recommendations. Robert Emmons wrote a book called Thanks, and this book talks about the psychology, the emotional, the spiritual aspects of gratitude and how to interweave it into your day to make gratitude a part of your daily recognition and practice and meditation, and really lifts your spirit to be grateful. And so highly recommend the book. I know you'll enjoy it. Always check your local bookseller, your local library. I'm sure this book and the next one I'm going to recommend are available there. We want to support our local bookstores and our libraries. So thanks. It's a great book. Nancy Leigh DeMoses writes a book called Choosing Gratitude. And these are more like vignettes and stories that really help you see how gratitude is so central to a life where you can be content and think about all of the blessings that you indeed have. And it's a book that lifts you up and allows you to help others. So it's also recommended. There are lots of books on gratitude, lots of books on how we can look at gratitude as a tool to help us in our daily lives. And so I highly recommend that as well. Thank you so much for this joint journey, and as you gather with your families, wishing you and your family all of the blessings of the season. May our hearts be content. May our gifts be used to help those who are struggling. As always, con mucho cariño, mucho salud, mucho amor. Gracias.